This morning, we are now for the first time hearing from President Trump after his former lawyer and so-called fixer was sentenced to 3 years behind bars for crimes prosecutors say he committed in coordination with and at the direction of his former boss. In one of several tweets today, the president is denying he directed Michael Cohen to break the law, writing, quote, "He was a lawyer and he's supposed to know the law. It's called advice of counsel, and a lawyer has great liability if a mistake is made." Here's the thing. There's tape, right? Here's audio of Michael Cohen talking with Donald Trump about those payments.
I've spoken to Alan Weisselberg about how to set the whole thing up with
So what are we going to pay?
funding. Yes. And it's all the stuff, because, you know, you never know where that company, you never know where he's going to be.
Gets it by
Correct. So I'm all over that. And I spoke to Alan about it when it comes time for the financing, which will be.
Listen, what financing?
We'll have to pay you. So
I'll pay the cash.
no. I got no.
Joining me now, Michael Cohen's former lawyer, Lanny Davis. Lanny, thank you for coming on the show. Much appreciated.
Thank you.
I want to try to lay down kind of a factual baseline here, Lanny, and just to explain to folks, you no longer represent Michael Cohen in a legal capacity. You still are a sort of communications advisor here. So
yes, the case is over, and that's why I'm no longer needed as a lawyer.
Let me start with the president's tweet today when he says he never directed Michael Cohen to break the law. Is Donald Trump lying?
Well, no, he's stating a legal conclusion that some lawyer must have written for him, but he's not stating facts, and that's what he always seems to ignore, are facts.
So let me just stop you there. So are you saying the president did direct Michael Cohen to break the law?
Well, of course not. He's stating a conclusion, which is a legal conclusion, but he ignores the facts. Fact one, you've already, which is undeniable, played, which is the tape that he was aware of this payment. Fact two is that you have corroboration as of yesterday, but we knew about, that the publication owner collaborated in order to hush up bad news before the election, and it was about the election. So those are facts. Now it's up to a jury to determine whether those payments were made right before the general election, motivated by protecting and hushing up and corrupting the election, or whether it was for another reason. But President Trump doesn't seem to understand, or he doesn't care, the difference between facts and spin. And in this case, he's ignoring the facts.
In addition to the two pieces of information you just laid out, does Michael Cohen have additional proof or additional evidence that the president did direct him to break the law?
Well, he has the tape. He certainly has now corroborating.
He has one tape.
Yes, and that's pretty compelling. I played that on the air myself. He has now, according to the Southern District of New York prosecutors, an agreement with the publisher, who was a corroborating individual, as to the motivation of those hush money payments. And we also have Mr. Weisselberg cooperating, who is a witness to the motivation of making those payments to Ms. Daniels and Ms. McDougal. So you have witnesses besides Mr. Cohen's word, which people can have a right to doubt. And Mr. Mueller, in his own way, on the Russian investigation, is not relying on one witness, as we've seen. He relies on corroborating testimony, and Mr. Trump doesn't seem to get that.
Okay, so he had Robert Mueller, prosecutors have the word of these witnesses, including your former client, Michael Cohen. We heard that one tape. Are there additional tapes that Michael Cohen made of Donald Trump talking about this? Are there more tapes?
So I don't know the answer to that. I do and have heard that tape, and that tape is pretty compelling, that Mr. Trump was aware of the hush money plan, and he may argue it was motivated by protecting his wife, but 2 weeks before an election, with all other witnesses saying it was motivated about hushing up and corrupting the outcome of an election, in my view, that's a conclusion that a jury could draw.
Okay. There's something else that Michael Cohen may or may not know something about, and there was confusion about this earlier in the year. So I'd like you to clarify, now that you can speak freely once and for all. Does Michael Cohen have knowledge that Donald Trump was told about that Trump Tower meeting with a Russian lawyer on or around the time that it happened?
No. I remember the terrible experience for me in thinking that he did, and it turned out I was wrong, and I did what Donald Trump has a problem doing. I immediately went on TV and owned up to my mistake.
Other than the tape that we heard, that we played, that your client recorded, and other than his word, what he's telling the special counsel, do you have other evidence, or does Cohen have other evidence, that Donald Trump is not telling the truth? Because that is a point that you have made repeatedly over the last 24 hours, that Cohen is ready to tell all. Does he have evidence other than his word and that tape?
Well, I would say I can't answer any questions about Mr. Mueller's conversations for 70 hours and his team, except to say that the style of this particular prosecutor, Mr. Mueller, is not to believe anyone, but to have corroborating, irrefutable hard evidence, such as emails, tapes, and other corroboration from other witnesses. I can't tell you about other tapes about Mr. Cohen. We're going to wait for Mr. Mueller's findings. But then I believe Mr. Cohen will have an opportunity before probably a congressional committee to answer every question and to tell the full story about what he knows about Mr. Trump.
So speaking of that, you told me yesterday that same thing, that Michael Cohen, you compared him to John Dean. He's going to go and tell all before a congressional committee. Has any congressional committee or any member of Congress contacted you?
No.
Or contacted Michael Cohen?
No. And just quickly, Hallie, the comparison to John Dean is only in one respect. The facts are much different. John Dean pled guilty to serious crimes, had admitted in a book called Blind Ambition that he was obstructing justice, tampering with witnesses, authorizing hush money payments, helping Richard Nixon. And people doubted his word, but in history he's been looked upon favorably because he ultimately told the truth.
Before I let you go, how is Michael Cohen's state of mind today? What kind of spirits is he in? What's he thinking a day after being sentenced to 3 years in prison in front of his family?
So I only talked to him the night before, not yesterday, but I watched his demeanor and his family and read his amazing statement where he took full ownership, no excuses, personal responsibility. And I can see how brutal and awful this is for him and his family. And I hope to talk to him soon.
Lanny Davis, when you do, please let us know how he's doing. Lanny, thank you so much. Appreciate you coming on the broadcast today. Thank you for checking out our YouTube channel. Why don't you subscribe? It's really easy. Just click on that button down there. And for more news from MSNBC, click on any of these videos here for the latest interviews and highlights. You can get more videos from MSNBC with our newsletters. Head over to msnbc.com/newsletters to sign up.